is that is a question to ask if they really want to see a different, more diverse community. I feel like I have doing a lot of part of that, but I cannot do it alone. I have done and work hard, but it's not gonna be up to me. It has to come with from other entities, other leaders, because the Hispanic community is already here. We're left for countries to look for a better place, and this is a better place. Well, there's not looking back. For me, it's not looking back. So I'm already here. What I'm gonna do to create a better community, I'm already doing. But my other amigos y amigas needs to also be part of this change.
You're listening to The Underview, an exploration in the shaping of our place. My name is Mike Rush, and in 1990, the Hispanic Latino population in Northwest Arkansas was estimated to be approximately 1% of the population. And since 1990, it has grown a lot, and today it is estimated to be at 17% of the total population of Northwest Arkansas, and that's reported by the NWA Council. Today's story is about the 1%. Olivia Barraza moved to Northwest Arkansas in 1988 from the state of Durango, that's in north central Mexico. She moved here to start a new life, to seek better opportunity, a place to build a family, and to pursue this idea of the American dream. That dream started in the chicken plants here in Northwest Arkansas. It evolved into a 20-year career with Walmart, and today it looks like a community of women inviting others who are new to this place to join them in the making and shaping of this place. And of course, I'm biased because Olivia's story is one that uses the bicycle as the medium for a community's connection and also to connect her community to everyone else. We do talk about the cycling community a little, but this conversation is really about so much more than that. Her story has hard parts that are not easy, and that's not uncommon. However, her story is one that I would put next to anyone's as an example of what it means to have the courage to start all over again. There's still work to do in building our community so that everyone feels welcome. So maybe Olivia's story can help us close the gaps because her story and the story of her community is something that we should be proud to be a part of. So sit back, grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine, and listen to Olivia's story. I promise you won't regret it. Olivia, thank you for sitting with me. I'm anxious to learn about the work that you're doing, but maybe before we get started, I would love for you to just share your story of who you are and tell me your story.
Thank you, Mike, for inviting me and open up the space for me to share. Well, my name is Olivia Barraza. I'm the co-founder and director of Latinas in Bici. I moved here in 1988, Bentonville. I'm from a small town called Gomez Palacio in the state of Durango, which is about 6 hours from the border. I left my home looking for a better opportunity, looking for the American dream. And thank God I landed here in Bentonville. 98, I was a young girl, 19 years old. Don't do the math, please. And I landed here, and I moved to a place where it was not familiar with me. It was a culture shock. I didn't speak the language. I was, I didn't own a car. I didn't have hardly any friends. There was not a community here. I remember back then there was around 3 houses, max 5 houses of Latinos in Bentonville. So it was hard. It was hard to get used to another culture. I remember feeling homesick, sad, nostalgic, a lot of nostalgia about, my hometown, my roots, and, my family. I was alone. And, but, I know that this was a good for me. This was a part of the new life that I want to build. So now, I have four young men, and Northwest Arkansas became my homeland. But when I first came here, there was not a community. There was no tortillerias. There was no supermercados. The Hispanic community was not formed yet. And that feeling of not feeling like I belong was very, very traumatic for me in a way. That I have a lot of moments where I was, feeling sad and I want to go back home. But, I started, my first job was Tyson, which was located where is the East Street Market. And then Walmart was my second job, which I worked for 20 years. And I was, proud of work for one of the biggest company in the world. But, little by little, the Hispanic community has built, a community. I remember I lived here in Bentonville for 2 years. Then, I moved to Rogers, where the Hispanic community was getting bigger. The chicken plants was bringing a lot of Latinos from Central and South Latin countries. And it was when then I started making friends, and I started to also helping the immigrants that were moving here. But that time I learned a little bit more English, and I was able to help other friends who didn't speak in English. But I helped them to find a job, find a home, and I helped in any way that I could, because I know how hard it was for me when I moved here, where you didn't have no family, you didn't have no community. I remember going to Walmart and I didn't see any jalapenos or that food that I love, and I was like, wow, it was hard. And I remember my cousin and I going through the aisles at the Bentonville Walmart, and we heard somebody speaking in Spanish, and I said to my cousin, "Quiet, shh, shh, quiet." There's someone that was speaking Spanish, and we were like, "Who, where?" So we run through the aisles and we find someone they look like us. But that time, I invited my cousin to move here, so there were still not enough people who looked like us. And when we saw our friend, we run to each other and we hug and we ask ourselves, "Did you speak Spanish?" And she said, "Yes, well, me too." And so that was great. And I years later, until the present, I have formed a family. The Latino community has grown, especially in Rogers and Springdale. And to me, when I saw the first tortilleria, the first supermercado, I was like, "Oh, this remind me of home." So now these communities growing in we're building things that remind us of our origins, of our countries where we grew up. The community is here now. So it's important to embrace that community and make a space for people like us who came to look for a better life, came to look for the American dream. And but that is part of my story, how I landed here, and now this is my hometown that I love very much, and I try to do the best I can to make a better community, because the Latino community has came and opened a lot of opportunities. We want to, create a space where we can feel like we belong, and we can celebrate our culture too.
Thank you. I'm glad you're here. I think you've actually lived in Northwest Arkansas longer than I have. I'd love to understand what does Arkansas mean to you
Today means opportunity, opportunity to shape this state to to a better place for different culture, for different point of think, different point of life, and they can enrich this state. We can make it even better.
Is this home then for you? You said this was your homeland, but what does that mean? Do you feel at home now?
90%.
90%. Okay.
I live here more than I have lived in Durango. I came here in a very young age, and now part of my roots are here. My 4 young men was born here, and after I came, I invite my cousin, my sisters, and I have a family here too. But I feel like, at home, it needs to be more than a physical address, more than a house. A home needs to feel like we belong. To me, home needs to feel like a sense of community where we are welcome. And it's not there yet.
In your time here in Northwest Arkansas, how has that sense of home or belonging changed? And what I mean by that is, you said when you came, it felt very lonely or isolated. But today you're building a community. What has helped that happen?
But what I hope it happens is that, we don't see separations, in cultural. And how we gonna know that is feel the energy, when someone comes to Bentonville, they look like me or doesn't look like you, it feels like it's welcome, not by saying, but by feel. And that's what I hope, that we can create that space. And we all are part of that, I feel like we're doing, since 1988 to now, we had grown, and we had created a better sense of community, but not quite yet. Still a lot of changes to be made, and still a lot of people who need to open their heart and the space to welcome other people.
I want to ask more about that question, this question of not quite yet. Before we get there, though, I'd love to understand, because you are doing some really beautiful things and creating community. And I'd love to understand a little bit of your background first before we maybe come back to that question. I'd love for you to share a little bit about the organization that you've been a part of founding, Latinas in Bici. Could you share?
Yes. Well, before Latinas in Bici, I was in a place where my mental, physical, and emotional life wasn't quite well. I was under a lot of stress. I was single mother of four young men, and one of them was in a wheelchair after a dramatic near-drown accident that changed my life completely. So I was in a dark moment. I had no desires. I didn't really have a physical or physical activity for myself. And also, it's part of a culture, that the women, we are the main caregiver of our family, and we tend to put ourselves at the end of the list. So I feel like I didn't have a schedule for me, or I didn't exist in my list. So I started to riding bikes in 2016. And, after I bought my first bike, I started riding, I was remember memories of my childhood when I ride my bicycle in my hometown. It transformed me back there. And then, I start seeing the benefits and the changes that my body was feeling. My mind was clear, more a sense of joy. I was feeling better. And then I was start riding from Rogers to Fayetteville, from Bentonville to Fayetteville, and then I said, this is good for me. And I started going to the events that it was around here in Northwest Arkansas. And for not having friends into being accelerated, I started make new friendships, and that really was changing my whole life. I was feeling physical and mental and emotional much better. And when I remember one of the events that I joined along with my sister, I look around and there was no other other people that looked like me. And after also riding with the Gross Bike Bill, that a very group that I love very much. And that was a good started for me. But it was not something that it make me feel like it was that I belong. The whole cycling community is very friendly, very nice, but I needed it. I needed it to have a space for women that look like me, and with the same physical and cultural background. And from that feeling and that desire to share what I was feeling and to share how my life was changing, I said I wanted to create a group with women like me can feel like, they belong, they can have a safe space, and they can enjoy these beautiful trails of Northwest Arkansas. So in 2019, I started Latinas in BC, and we are a nonprofit organization dedicated in improving the physical, the mental, the emotional well-being of the Latinas through our programming. Or through Latinas in BC, we had created a programming there. We lowered the barriers, financial, and the intimidation part to any Hispanic woman who would like to learn about, how did they get into cycling. So almost 5 years to the present moment, we have impacted our community. We have created a space, and I feel like we have created a great impact in our community where I can see more interesting in women. They're reaching out. How did I get into cycling? I want to be part of this group that you have, that you have created. And we are very welcome, a group of ladies. Just because we call Latinas, that doesn't mean we don't welcome. We are very open to anyone. So that's what Latinas in BC is.
That sounds beautiful, first of all.
Thank you.
I'm curious about the sense of community that you feel like you are finding within the people that are participating. How would you maybe continue to describe the sense of community that you either feel you're a part of, or that people are experiencing as a part of some of the work that you're?
Instead, the cycling is growing here. You and I, we know,
Yes.
and we can see that difference from 10 years to now. I feel like the Hispanic community wants to be part of this ecosystem that is forming, and how we can, in that particular community, how we can feel welcome. I think that the leaders in the cycling community, they are manage groups, organizations, entities. They, I feel like, creating a space and be more open to welcome that a more diversity community, that is very crucial to shift, the growth of the cycling community in particular. Because when I first started, it was 90.99% white, and still it's a big percentage. White is not has changed, Latinas in BC we're doing our part, is trying to push, and we are the bridge for cycling. But after that, what other leaders in the cycling community are doing to welcome, that a more diversity community? So there is a calling for those leaders to ask themselves what I'm doing with my programming, with my resources, with that space that I able to have in a table, what I'm doing I think that's
from what I understand about the work you're doing, this is not just taking people who are already cycling within the Hispanic community and asking them to ride together, although there is some of that. You're actually teaching people how to ride bikes and get bikes, and introduction to how to go on gravel rides and mountain bike rides. The starting place for the work that you're doing is really critical, because you're not just asking people to be a part of a already existing Hispanic community that is cycling. You're trying to really create pathways and avenues for people to even start this in the first place. I'd love to understand more about that, because your investment in the cycling community is not just participation. It appears to me that your investment into the cycling community and into the community here in Northwest Arkansas is one of helping to try and grow it in a way that allows it to be more inclusive and more people to be able to participate in the beautiful thing that cycling is here in Northwest Arkansas. Is that a fair assumption? I'd love to hear more about that passion too.
Yes, we are the bridge for our community to going through the cycling community, and we are teaching this to learn, in not only to learn from themselves, but to go home and teach them. And we started from zero. Tuesday, we had a workshop that it was called My First Bicycle, which women come and learn what kind of bicycle they need to get if they decided to enter into the cycling. And that was, we're giving them a tool, not only to enjoy the cycling in the outdoor recreation, but we're giving them a tool that is gonna be a life changing in the culture, in their families, but also in the independence. A lot of our Latin community come from other countries. When they come here, they might not have the driver license or the status where they can drive a vehicle. So using the bicycle as a tool to have an independence, for them to go to work, for them to go to the hospital, for them to go to the tortilleria in el supermercado, that is a tool of independence itself for women in my community. So yes, we are teaching, we're empowering, we're also looking at the health of their health, and giving them a motivation for them to look at their health. We empower them. Health through cycling is a better way to motivate somebody than do this so you can feel better, so you can reduce cholesterol. Even though our community is, we have a history of have diabetics and other disease. How we gonna motivate them to become more active? Did I answer?
You did.
I feel like I went.
No, you did. You
okay.
Absolutely answered the question. Because I think what I hear is that this is not just let's go on a bicycle and have fun. This is a holistic view of how something that's happening in our community and being encouraged in our community can be a tool for what sounds like a fuller, richer life in general, from community building to physical health to mental wellness, to break what I see, at least I'll speak for myself, to break what could be, to break communities that are isolated from each other and build. You've said it already. We're the bridge. You're building bridges in our community to try and connect people and unite. So to me, that's just, it's a really beautiful thing in a holistic way that I think our community has a lot to learn from. And so I'm thankful. Go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No, go ahead.
When you think about this aspect of creating this community, I know we're using cycling as the example, but this is more than that. And I want to try to understand that a little bit more, because as you think about using this tool of the bicycle to create communities, if all we're doing is going and riding bikes together, that's one thing, and that's good. But what do you want to see happen maybe beyond that even more, if you will? And it could be within the community of people that you're working with, but it could also be across some of those cultural gaps that you're building bridges across.
Well, I don't know if you heard that statistic that how many people move here in Northwest Arkansas. A percentage of those people are Hispanic Latinos. So when they come here, they, if they don't see something that they feel like is part of them, or they feel like it's a welcoming or belonging, well, some of those people are not going to stay. So what are we doing to to build this welcoming, not only in cycling but in general here in the Northwest Arkansas? So to create that community that I see, that I'm ambitious in, I feel like it needs more than just having a jobs here. What did you do? What we're gonna, what the what Northwest Arkansas has for those community? They are say, this is what I want to be. This is what I want to live my life, and also to make a positive impact in the community, because there's a lot of individuals, a lot of good people are moving here that wants to be part of something bigger than just going to work and go back home and watch TV. What is a community we offer to them? And I feel like I still needs more work to do in that part. And there is also the socioeconomic aspect of this region where we live in. If it's high scale, if it's not something that is within in our capacity to to have, and then what are we doing for those people? It's something that the entities and the people in power can ask themselves and do the work, do the job, because we are here to stay, and there's a lot of good people like me that wants to create something positive and wants to better their life, their family, in the community that where we live. We have a lot of good intentions, but we also need to feel like we're part of this. And going back to when I first moved here, you know, feeling lonely, feeling isolated, this is not healthy for anybody. So I feel like Northwest Arkansas is changing, and I love it. I'm feel proud to say that I'm part of this community, but there's sometimes that even myself, I don't feel like home. I don't feel welcoming in some spaces, and I feel like there's a lot of opportunity to grow for the people who are native here in Arkansas, to welcome and to change the perspective and mentality of you know of the racial aspect. Because when I came here, I was very intimidated to go to other towns, and I remember some people mentioned, don't go to this town, don't go to there. And why? I didn't know. Oh, this is very, how do you say
Like a racial
yeah,
bias of some sort.
yeah, there was a racial bias, and I didn't know much back then. But in some places, in some spaces, you can feel that welcoming is not there. And it's an opportunity, still opportunity to better the community that we want to live.
I'm curious to that aspect about how we are thinking about Northwest Arkansas growing or more people being included. What would you suggest, or what are some of the ways that we can be more proactive about creating a place that truly is welcome, a place of welcome for everyone that's here?
Well, you're already doing it by inviting me here. You open the space for me to come and share, my perspective, my feelings, my thoughts, and the opportunities. So there's other people that are empowered. Other people, they are, in charge of spaces. Welcome them, invite them, listen. We're not judgmental, and I think that is a good way to start and to see how the people they will live in this community, what we think, what we want to see, what we would love to see, and at one point, and how we can help also, because we're asking for a space to be open, but we also it's because we're gonna do something. It's not just open and don't. No, we want to be part of the work also, and that there is resources they can be shared, resources they can benefit everyone and not just one part. So that is important part from entities to be open into the willingness to see this community to grow. I feel like there is opportunities that we haven't tapped in because the the fear, the fear to open the space, the fear to share resources stop the people, And it's for my part, I want to do the best I can. That if I'm not invited, if I'm not know about the resources, how I'm gonna continue with this mission? How we gonna continue to grow and create safe spaces for community? I think there's a calling to these people who are in charge of entities and space to be more little bit more open and see the work that we have done, the work that the Hispanic community has done in Springdale and Rogers in particular, in those cities where we have created business service and or hard to put those service to everyone, So we we have created a positive change here, and there is a lot of people. There's few people in my community who has done an incredible job, and not only me, but other ones. They have seen the barriers, they have seen the needs, and they are open in trying to make a community much prosper, much better in every way we can.
Do you have any specific areas that you may want to mention where we need to focus as a community on either breaking down barriers or making sure that everyone is welcome at that table?
Well, education is one of the important things. I remember when I moved here, I was just finished my high school in Mexico. I moved here. I didn't know the language. There was not any opportunities of education for me, which I didn't continue my education. That's one. I think opening this in some of the, in particular in the cycling community, some bike shops, bilingual communication is so important in the workforce. Also, opportunities for leaders to be able to to be able to be part of this decision makers where they can advocate for the other communities. I feel like the government, when we see I'm not getting to the political space, but when you see other people that is not the regular people trying to take spaces, be more open, because we want to see representation in each sectors of each community, because there's not only Latinx community here, but there is other communities here. So we want to see representation of who represent us in each subject. So make a space, invite, and don't be afraid. We're here to make a positive change, not to take the whole space. I'm starting to be more political.
No, well, I'm fine with that. I've got some episodes that are very political, so
Okay.
it's fine. If you want to talk more about that, we can. I think for me, the thing that's most interesting is it's the work and the sense of community that you are working on. It's really beautiful to listen to you talk about the work that you're doing. And just the difference you're making in the lives of people and building communities and doing that in such a way that's so welcoming. And so it would be hard to argue that this community is not a better place for the work that you are doing here, and would love to see that continue to move forward. What are there some things that we as a community can do to support the work that you're doing that would help build those senses of community and continue to encourage people to get involved in the work that you're doing?
Yes, I mean, I feel like, support or programming support or mission, and I think that will be, a way of creating the community that we would like to see. If it's a diverse community that you would like to see, was in Latinas in BC we have opportunities of volunteers, opportunities of support, sponsorship, and opportunities of welcoming to your space. We have events uh, where we throughout the year we have events that we do fundraising to continue with our programming. There is one that is coming up, Tour de Frida, which is going to be at the Crystal Bridges. If you want to be part of it, reach out and get to know what we're doing, and get to know, how you can be involved. That is a way to support our mission, but also to open the space for organization to be part of it. We collaborate with a lot of organizations and other entities who have a great impact. The that we can use as a resort to spread our mission. I feel like also another way to they can help us in the Hispanic and Latinx community overall is to create pathways, to create infrastructure. How do you say it?
Now I can't say it. Infrastructure. Yeah.
Create infiltration from those neighborhoods. They are not connected to the Greenway. There is some of the neighborhood they are in Springdale and Rogers are not connected to the Greenway. They're cycle paths, or how do you call
Yes, just the neighborhood connectivity and what a
connectivity.
benefit that would be from an infrastructure development for communities in Rogers and Springdale.
So they're not isolated to these, Greenway trails, where if we want to activate those communities, that would be, a great opportunity for the department development of each city to see where are the opportunities that they can connect those neighborhoods and not so they don't feel isolated. Because riding a bike on the streets where they don't have a bike line, there's very intimidated. I don't even want to do it, But if we want to get everyone involved, that would be a great, opportunity for the cities, and say how we can create a pathway that this community can be more active uh, if that's what they want,
I ask everyone this question, and the more I ask it, the more I'm not sure if I should ask this question or not. So I'd love to understand, as you think about Northwest Arkansas and the work that you're doing, do you carry fears for this place as it continues to grow and move forward?
Well, that there's still a fear, of not feeling welcome. Most likely, it's not a fear of something's gonna happen to me, but a fear of not feeling welcome and not feeling part of this place. Yes, as an immigrant community, that's our biggest fear. We want to feel like we're part of this. We left for country to come here and create a better opportunity. And of course, I mean, going to a new place and not feeling welcome, that doesn't feel good. So yes, that's the biggest fear of people who move here. And how do we overcome that fear? How do we, you know,
And I also would just say that I feel like it's the people that maybe have been here for a long time too. It's our responsibility I say this meaning to this country. My family are immigrants to this country also, just many years. And so I feel a deep sense of responsibility that maybe while our countries of origin are different and our space and time may be different, that we also have a responsibility to be a part of making this a welcoming, open, accessible place for everyone. And so
I feel like there's fear in both sides, for the people who has lived here all their life, who have afraid to see this region to growth, and they feel afraid to change. The humans were afraid for changes, but in this, I see this changing in a positive way. In changing the mentality, changing the perspective of how we can create this better community for all is can be intimidating to some people. Some people don't like the change, but I see change as an opportunity. I see change as a way to growth. I see change that can unify us as a human. I when I moved here and I didn't know any English and I was working on the chicken plant, just trying to figure out what people were saying. I was afraid, but there is beyond that, there is a good energy that I was feeling, that of people who cares and wanted to help me too. I feel like, there's a lot of good people here and there's a lot of good intentions, but we need to go deeper than that because there is fear in both sides of community.
the other question that I ask people is this idea of wholeness. And I'd love to understand from your perspective, what do you feel like wholeness looks like in the work that you're doing?
Wholeness is I see wholeness is coming together with no judgment and beyond the mental titles that we put in the titles of who we are and what we do and where to work. It goes beyond that. Wholeness unified us as a one human family, and not wholeness doesn't divide. Wholeness doesn't see colors. I think we still have a very judgmental of what is a color, and we need to go beyond that.
Thank you for your words. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for the work that you're doing to create a beautiful Northwest Arkansas. There's no question we would be less without you here. And selfishly, I'm neither Latina nor a woman. Well, I guess it may be redundant, but I desperately, today it's raining outside, but maybe someday I can sneak into a bike ride with everyone because it sounds like a really beautiful community that hopefully I can participate in. So.
Yes, of course. You can come and join us anytime you want to. We also have an event coming up this July 27 at the Crystal Bridges. We hope to see you there, and it's invitation to everyone. And check us on our Facebook website.
Great.
You didn't ask me that.
No,
sorry, I went in.
No, please. That's good. I will put links to the events and your website and all the places where people can find you in our episode notes for sure. But Olivia, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your story. I'm very grateful.
No, thank you for allowing me to have this space and share what we're doing in the community. And thank you so much for giving the space to the Hispanic community. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it.
I'm humbled and grateful. So please keep doing the work that you're doing. Please, please, please.
Thank you. I'm very grateful for this moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thanks for listening to Olivia's story. I told you you wouldn't regret it, and hopefully you see exactly why we needed to have a conversation with Olivia. To be a part of Olivia's story is to be part of what makes this community something really special, what makes this community who we are. And I think any of us would be considered rich to have lived a similar story of coming to a new place and calling it now, as Olivia describes it, her homeland. In her experience, you hear there's still work to do, but it's work that requires all of us to be intentional in seeing where people may not feel like they fully belong, taking the initiative to cross those roads and invite someone new into this place with open arms. We've heard in our conversations from other guests how building a community starts with building friendships. And Olivia is truly an example that models to us what it can look like if we have the courage to step outside of what is known to us. This really is a story of our we culture. I hope everyone will choose to learn more about Olivia's work. Check out their website or Facebook group. They have invitations to join them all the time. I hope you're able to support their event on July 27th at Crystal Bridges, the Tour de Frida. This event fuses art and bikes to celebrate the legacy of Mexican artist Frida Kahlo. It includes food, music, art exhibits, and of course, some community bike rides for beginners to more advanced routes. I really do hope to see you there. And for our next episode, we're going to stay with this conversation about what it looks like to build communities that can include everyone. In Olivia's story, you heard about her family and her family's story of disability as well as isolation. This is not an uncommon story in our community. While I don't have specific statistics about Northwest Arkansas, in Arkansas, a 2022 report from Cornell University reports approximately 18% of people in our state experience some sort of disability. So we're going to talk next with Ginny Mooney, the co-founder and executive director of 99 Balloons. 99 Balloons works to change the story of disability and to build communities where everyone can not only be included, but can also be known.
And so what does it look like for Lena to be included in her community? And I think a lot of us will go, well, we just need to adapt things, which is true. But I don't know that always means that she is included. And we want that to be enough, right? I think we collectively as a society, a lot of times without thinking intentionally, we want it to be enough. We want to say, hey, this door is open to you. You have access. You can come in. But real inclusion means, I think, that her presence is missed when she's not there. And that's different. She has to be known to be truly included. So it's not about just saying we're going to adapt this. I think that's great. But we push a little bit further with that to say, this is someone who deserves to be known.
Well, I'm anxious to share this conversation with Ginny. I think if you're like me, you're going to have a whole new perspective of what it looks like to build inclusive communities. And then the route for this episode is the Tour de Frida route from 2022. It's a 13-mile route that starts in Fayetteville and then goes and circles Lake Fayetteville. Go and enjoy it, and then watch for information shortly on the 2024 event, and I hope you're planning on riding it if you can. And I'll close today with music from Esther Reyna, who's a native of Bentonville and was just in town for City Sessions Home Sweet Home Festival. So I hope you had a chance to see her. She's a singer-songwriter that flows between Arkansas and Utah. Enjoy her music. It's so good. And if you're on Spotify, you'll roll right into the music. If not, check the episode webpage for links to the music. Again, thanks for following this story. I'm humbled that you'd listen.